Okay, so are you ready to dive into this?
Yeah.
This is one of those enduring mysteries
It really is.
in American history.
Uh-huh.
The 1962 escape from Alcatraz. I mean, just saying that word Alcatraz.
I know, it just gives
Yeah.
me chills.
Yeah, it's just a place
Is.
steeped in legend.
Yeah.
You know, this island, this fortress in the fog, surrounded by
Surrounded by those water.
icy water, some of the most hardened
It's
criminals.
crazy. And these guys pulled off what seemed like the impossible.
Totally.
So we're going to be looking at this article.
Okay.
The mystery of the Alcatraz escapees. Did they survive? Our mission here
Yeah.
is to just really look at all this evidence and analyze different theories, and ultimately you get to decide what happened.
I like that.
Okay, so first things first, imagine you're a guard on Alcatraz.
Oh.
It's the morning of June 12th, 1962.
Okay.
You're doing your rounds, and bam, you find not one, not two, but three empty cells.
And not just empty cells with, like, sheets pulled up.
They had incredibly lifelike dummy heads.
It's like right out of a movie.
Can you imagine the shock, the confusion, the immediate realization that something truly audacious had just happened?
Right under their noses.
Right under their noses.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so who are these masterminds?
Okay, so we have Frank Morris.
Okay.
He was the brains of the operation.
Okay.
The article really describes him as being highly intelligent, almost like a chess player.
Okay.
Always evaluating his surroundings, always looking for weaknesses.
Wow.
And he had a long history with prison.
Okay.
He actually spent time studying prison layouts, security procedures, like he was preparing for this.
So he
Yeah.
gets to Alcatraz in 1960.
Right. And it's like he steps onto the ultimate playing field.
Totally.
Right.
Wow.
But, even a genius planner like Morris,
Yeah.
he still needed a skilled team.
Right.
And that's where John and Clarence Anglin come in.
Okay.
Two brothers with a knack for daring escapes.
Oh, really? They had a history of this.
They did.
Like, what kind of stuff had they done?
Well, they were known for being incredibly resourceful. Like, they could just exploit any oversight.
Anything.
One time they managed to break out of a local jail
Okay.
by squeezing through a ventilation duct.
No way.
Yeah, it was like escaping was an art form for them.
It's in their blood.
It really was.
Wow. Okay, so they meet up on Alcatraz, and this is where it all kind of comes together.
This is it. Yeah.
So what were their lives actually like on the island leading up to this escape?
Well, I mean, you have to remember that Alcatraz was no walk in the park.
Yeah.
You're talking about brutal conditions.
Oh, yeah.
Constant surveillance, psychological pressure.
Wow.
And these guys, they were determined to break free.
And this escape, this wasn't something that just happened overnight.
No, no, no.
This was planned.
This was a meticulously planned operation, years in the making.
Wow.
They started by exploiting a design flaw in the prison's ventilation system.
Okay.
So behind their cells, there were these utility corridors that were largely unguarded.
So they saw a potential way out.
Yeah.
Okay, but how did they even get into that corridor? I mean, weren't they locked in their cells?
Right. Well, that's where their ingenuity comes in.
Okay.
And frankly, their patience. They used spoons,
Spoons?
sharp metal, anything they could get their hands on
Oh my God.
to chip away at the concrete around the ventilation grates in their cells.
I can't even imagine.
They worked at night slowly, methodically,
Wow.
covering their progress with whatever they could find, like paint to blend it in.
I mean, can you imagine the grit and determination to do that night after night
Yeah.
with a spoon?
Knowing that discovery meant certain failure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling.
It's crazy.
And remember, Alcatraz was supposed to be escape-proof.
Right.
The guards were constantly on alert.
So they create this opening.
Yeah.
They're in this utility corridor.
Uh-huh.
Where does it go? What's next?
Well, this is where their plan really starts to take shape. So they had studied the blueprints of Alcatraz, and they knew that this corridor gave them access to this network of tunnels and pipes
Tunnels and pipes.
that ran throughout the prison.
Oh my gosh.
Think about it. They were navigating the bowels of Alcatraz.
I'm getting claustrophobic just thinking about that.
Oh, yeah.
These tunnels, were they big enough to comfortably move around in?
Not at all.
Oh no.
They were cramped, dark, and often filled with obstacles.
Obstacles, like what?
I mean, they had to squeeze through these narrow passages,
Gosh.
climb over pipes, contend with who knows what kind of critters and grime.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, it sounds pretty terrible.
But they had a goal in mind, right?
They did.
Where were they going? Where were these tunnels leading them?
So their destination was the roof of the cell house.
The roof.
Yeah.
Okay.
And from there, they could access the roof of another building,
Okay.
which had a somewhat less steep drop down to the water's edge.
Okay, so they're on the roof,
Uh-huh.
but they're still on the island.
Yeah.
They're surrounded by water.
Mhm.
How are they going to escape from Alcatraz itself?
Well, they had thought of that too, of course.
Okay.
Over months, they had been collecting and hoarding raincoats.
Raincoats?
Yeah, over 50 of them.
What?
And they fashioned these raincoats into a makeshift raft.
What? A raft made of raincoats?
Yeah,
Okay.
using glue thread and even cement that they'd scraped from the walls.
How do you even think of that?
Right.
That seems incredibly flimsy. Was it actually seaworthy?
Well, it might sound far-fetched,
Yeah.
but raincoats, when properly sealed and inflated,
Right.
can actually provide a surprising amount of buoyancy.
Oh, wow.
And there's even evidence that they had conducted test runs with their raft
Oh, really?
in the prison's water tanks.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, they were meticulous. You have to give them credit for that.
They were dedicated.
Yeah.
Okay. But even if that worked, the waters around Alcatraz are notoriously treacherous.
Oh, yeah.
I
We're
get-
talking strong currents, frigid temperatures. And the distance to the mainland is no joke.
So hypothermia would have been a major concern.
Absolutely. It's estimated that the water temperature that night was around 54 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, my gosh.
That's cold enough to incapacitate even a strong swimmer within minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So darkness, cold currents, and who knows what else is in those waters.
Right. It was a long shot,
Yeah.
for sure. But remember, they were desperate. They were
Right.
willing to risk everything for a chance at freedom.
Yeah.
And this escape, it was more than just a physical challenge.
Yeah.
It was a battle of wits.
Yeah.
You know, a high-stakes game of deception.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so they've got their raft. They got their escape route. Now it's the night of June 11th, 1962.
Right.
Walk me through what happened.
So after months of planning and preparation,
Right.
they put their plan into action.
Okay.
Under the cover of darkness, they slipped out of their cells.
Okay.
They navigated that treacherous network of tunnels and emerged onto the roof.
Wow.
They used a makeshift rope ladder.
Oh, wow. Fashioned from bed sheets and stolen piping to rappel down the side of the building.
I can't even imagine the nerve to do that.
Yeah, just dangling off the side of Alcatraz,
Yeah.
knowing that a fall would mean certain capture or worse.
Oh, yeah.
And all the while, they had to maintain absolute silence,
Right.
avoiding those watchful eyes of the guards.
It sounds like something out of a thriller movie.
It really does.
So they make it down to the water's edge. What happens next?
They launched their makeshift raft into the dark, choppy waters of San Francisco Bay,
And then,
and then they vanished.
just like that, gone.
Gone the next morning when the guards discovered the empty cells and the dummy heads.
Oh, my God.
The alarm was raised. A massive search operation was launched
Hi, man.
involving the FBI, Coast Guard, helicopters, boats, divers, you name it.
Wow.
They scoured the bay, the surrounding islands, the mainland,
Uh-huh.
but they found absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
No bodies, no trace of the raft, no confirmed sightings.
And that's where the real mystery begins.
That's it. What happened to those men?
right?
Did they drown in those waters?
Yeah.
Did they somehow make it to the shore?
Did they have help?
Were they ever seen again? I mean,
Yeah.
these are the questions that have haunted investigators, historians,
Huh?
and just armchair detectives for decades.
You're absolutely right. And the lack of any concrete evidence,
Right.
it's fueled all sorts of speculation and conspiracy theories over the years.
So what are the main theories?
Yeah, what do people think happened to these guys?
I mean, I'm dying to know.
Well, there are a few main theories,
Okay.
each with its own set of compelling arguments, and of course its flaws.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to look at them all, weigh the evidence, and see what seems most likely.
Or at least plausible.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm all ears. Let's dive in. Okay, so let's tackle these theories.
All right.
So first up, the one that seems the most likely, but also raises the most questions.
Uh-huh.
They drowned.
Right. I mean, the currents around Alcatraz are so powerful.
Right.
The water's freezing.
Yeah.
I mean, even experienced swimmers would struggle.
Right.
But the thing that really makes people question this theory
Uh-huh.
is the lack of bodies.
Right. You would think that at least one would have washed ashore.
You would think.
Yeah. So if not drowning, then what? What else is there?
Well, theory number 2
Yeah.
is that they made it to the mainland.
Okay.
Maybe they miscalculated the currents. Maybe they got lucky.
Yeah.
But somehow they reached shore.
But they were the most wanted men in America at this point.
Right.
They couldn't have just blended in.
Exactly.
I mean, didn't they need help to pull this off?
That's where theory number 3 comes in.
Okay.
outside assistance. Think about it. Maybe they had family or friends who were in on this plan,
Right.
waiting for them with a car, maybe even a boat.
Wow.
Their article even mentions that the Anglin brothers' mother received flowers every Mother's Day for years after the escape,
Really?
with no card, no sender.
That's spooky. So they're out there living new lives, maybe even with new identities.
Like a real-life witness protection program.
Right, but self-imposed.
But yeah, self-imposed, exactly.
I mean, that's pretty compelling, but
It is.
it also raises some questions.
Of course.
I mean, they would need money. They'd need resources.
The whole support system.
Right, to stay hidden for that long.
Right.
I mean, so maybe not impossible, but...
It's improbable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, is there another theory? Something even more out there?
Well, there is one.
Okay.
And it's the one that I think really captures the imagination.
Right.
Theory number 4.
Okay.
They faked their deaths.
Well, hold on. Are we talking like elaborate schemes, secret identities, like the whole 9 yards?
Think about it.
Oh,
These
yeah.
guys were master planners.
Right.
What if the escape itself was just the first step in a much larger plan?
Okay. I like where this is going.
Maybe they had stashed supplies beforehand.
Uh-huh.
Maybe they had a boat waiting further out in the bay.
What-
Maybe they even planned to stage their own deaths to throw off the authorities.
So that's a bold claim.
It is.
I mean, is there any evidence to support that?
Well, it's mostly circumstantial.
Okay.
The fact that no bodies were ever found.
Right.
The meticulous planning that went into the escape.
Uh-huh.
And even the fact that they left behind those incredibly lifelike dummy heads.
Right.
It all just kind of suggests this level of cunning and deception that goes beyond just a simple prison break.
Right. It's like they wanted people to believe that they drowned,
Right.
that they were gone for good.
Exactly.
That's a brilliant strategy.
It really is.
If they pulled it off.
It feeds into this whole idea of them being folk heroes.
Right.
You know, these masterminds who outsmarted the system and vanished into thin air.
Wow. Okay. I have to admit that theory is really intriguing.
It is.
I mean, it really plays into that whole nothing is what it seems kind of vibe.
It does.
So after diving into all these details, all this evidence, all these theories, what do you think happened to the Alcatraz escapees?
I mean, honestly, it's a mystery that may never be fully solved.
Right.
The evidence is so circumstantial
Yeah.
and so much time has passed.
Right.
But I think that's part of what makes this story so captivating.
It really is.
It allows us to speculate, you know, to weigh the possibilities, to
Yeah.
just tap into that sense of wonder and the unknown.
That's so true. It's like a puzzle that's missing a few pieces.
Yeah,
You can analyze the pieces we do have, but ultimately we have to fill in the gaps with our imaginations.
exactly. And in the end, it's not just about what happened to those 3 men.
Right.
It's about what their escape represents.
Yeah. What does it represent to you?
This relentless pursuit of freedom, this refusal to be confined,
Yeah.
you know, this ability to outsmart even the most secure prison in the world.
And it's a reminder that sometimes the most captivating stories are the ones that leave us with more questions than answers.
I think that's a great point.
So we've examined the evidence, we've explored the theories.
Huh.
Now it's your turn. What do you think happened on that foggy night in June 1962?
Right.
Did the Alcatraz escapees meet a watery grave? Or did they manage to achieve the impossible
It's a great question.
and slip away into a new life?
Yeah.
The answer is yours to decide.
You decide.